Hey everybody, welcome to Work in Progress. We are doing a little bit of a solo show this week, so no Rachel this week. We moved the show around, and you know things happen. So we're just gonna play it by ear, and let's see. We've got I don't even know how to do this show by myself. So let's see. Welcome to Work in Progress, the weekly live show from Reno Collective, co-working about work, life, and everything in between. This episode, if you are watching it live, I think we just have some fun with chat and talk a little bit about your experiences with the three topics for the week. We've got no code, which we'll dive into a little bit if you don't know what it is, and credit cards. That's definitely a topic that I'm unfortunately too familiar with. And then for fun, we're going to be talking about condiments. So definitely, even now, I think the way that Rachel put it out there was earlier this week, what are your favorite condiments and on what? Definitely share them in chat below, and we can talk about that as we go through the episode this week. So I think what's worth thinking about here is kind of like what we've talked about in the past with why we're doing the show this way, creating three different topics and just kind of riffing on them. And, obviously work and life has been upended, distractions and things like today, the schedules go out the window, and it's just fun to kind of riff on some things that don't require finding guests, finding too much research and things like that. So no code is something that I think will help from like more of the work side of things. Especially if you have ever tried to build something, even like a tool. We could talk about like a tool for tracking your spending or your credit cards, which will kind of go into that second topic. But no code, I'm a programmer, but I'm a fan of no code. These are a lot of the tools out there that allow you to build something, whether it's a prototype or an actual functioning little app, little helper, without having to write code. And if you've got any experience with any of the tools out there that you like, I would even put things like Shopify, Wix, WordPress, Squarespace. Webflow is a really powerful one that's kind of it actually creates code for you. So it's a no-code way of drag and drop, like building a website. If you have experience with those, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. Webflow is one that I've wanted to play around with. I believe it's webflow.com. We're just going to throw links in chat and hope they go where we hope. So the modern way to build for the web. And let's see. I think we can actually get some screen sharing action going here. So I actually learned, I think we can do screen share. Here we go. Multiple screens here. You guys get to see how the stream is made. There we go. So this is Webflow, and I used to use a tool called Expression Engine when I was learning HTML and CSS, and that was actually a tool from Microsoft. And it was kind of like around the time the Dreamweaver was really popular. What I like about Webflow is it actually creates really good code, and you don't need to know anything about the code under the covers, but Webflow will let you drag and drop and design really cool websites, and I think they even do stores and stuff like that now too. And it generates really good code. Yeah, so it looks like e-commerce and CMS. So big fan of Webflow. I haven't personally used it to build anything, but I've seen a lot of success around it, and I've seen sites built in it, and the code is what I would expect a human to write. And I think I've had these conversations with some people where writing code, it's not really always the best language, right? It's not as expressive as English, and you have to know all these certain rules, and you know what you want it to look like, but you may not know what things you need to use in CSS and HTML to get it that way. But you could drag and drop some photos, pick some colors, create some responsiveness, and tell the computer what you want and let the computer do its thing. So big fan of Webflow. I would say the other one is Zapier. So Zapier will let you connect one app to another. So say we can do an example would be like every time Reno Collective goes live on Twitch, that would be the trigger. Then you do an action. So we could say send a tweet, and then you could have another action, maybe post to Facebook, right? And so that trigger would then create a number of actions that you could do. And so this is where you could reasonably start to wire up different interactions for, like, let's say we build a website in Webflow, someone fills out a contact form, that can then trigger actions in other apps, all without writing any code. But obviously you're going to have to pay for some of these tools, right? So the trade-off there, the pros and cons, is like, yeah, you could do a lot of this stuff on your own and you're not going to pay for it, but you're going to pay for it in time and learning how to code and figuring out where to host it and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, Jonathan mentioned that he uses Zapier to block calendars from different clients. So that's a great one. And Zapier has a lot of the more business related things. There's one called IFTTT, if this then that. So IFT is more of the like social apps. So things like Strava and Instagram and Twitter and all that kind of stuff. So there's a little bit of a Venn diagram of different things that you can get between these two apps, and definitely a lot of fun. You can kind of, you can also cascade triggers. So having one trigger that then triggers another Zap or another, I don't even know what they call them, ifs. And fun fact here, the company that I work for right now, we still use Zapier, but it was actually built very much in a no-code way. So it was using Shopify. Every time someone purchased something in Shopify, it would send that order into a, we'll say it's like Airtable. So Airtable is like a web database. So you can have something like Airtable. There's one called Knack. Let's see if we can find the domain for Knack. Maybe it's just, knack.com. So we would actually have a database that, again, you don't necessarily need to have code to use. And so Zapier would put a line item in the customers table every time someone new bought from the store. It would put the items that they bought into another table inside of Knack. So Airtable and Knack are another two really useful ones. Jonathan also mentions IFT for Reddit alerts on searches. That's definitely a good one. And I think a lot of people used to use IFT for a lot of the social media management that you can get from tools like Buffer. So these are all just becoming giant ads for a bunch of companies. But Buffer lets you, instead of having to write code or tile your social medias together, you can use Buffer to schedule social media posts and that sort of thing. So a lot of people use IFT to kind of hack that and do their own type of thing. And actually for this show, every time every Wednesday I go post on Instagram, and I post on, actually we don't post on Twitter. We don't post on Facebook. And that's something that we probably should set up, either a Buffer or an IFT. I don't think Buffer has triggers though. So what would be really cool is if I come into like the Twitch stream manager here, you can see kind of the behind the scenes here. It would be cool to add some sort of trigger here that then would, when I go live, trigger in Zapier, trigger in IFT, and you could do any number of things from that. So that's kind of no code in a nutshell. Again, I'm a big fan. There's reasons to write code, but every bit of code that you write, if you're a developer, means that you have to now care and feed for that code forever, right? As long as you're using it. So it's definitely something to consider when you're like, do you need to build this yourself, or can you do something that is off the shelf so that someone else takes care of it? So we do a little bit of this with this website. So this is our new Reno Collective site. So scheduling a free tour, we actually use Calendly for this. And so I'm not going to build this. This doesn't make sense for me to build. And I think, Jonathan, you might use this for your stuff too. But what we like is that, we can actually overlay our calendars, and you can see when tours are available based on that. And then we can actually trigger off of these. So right now, I think they just send us an email, but we could send it to Slack with Zapier. We could send it wherever we want and kind of create those types of things. if somebody actually signs up, so if someone comes in here and joins the online community, this is actually going to take you to Stripe. So like, yes, I could have sat down and built our own checkout. I know how to, but Stripe gives you this really cool custom, you can customize it a little bit, but it doesn't make sense for me to build this from scratch. So same situation. If someone signs up here, we get a notification in Zapier. A bunch of other things happen where you get added to all of the different apps that we use. You get added to the Arena Collective, basically. And so we used to do that by hand, and now we can kind of automate that. So it's really powerful. And those companies, they have an entire team of people really focused on making those tools really good. So if there's something that you're looking to do, there's a lot of things out there that will help you get there. There's this really cool website called MakerPad. This actually just got bought by Zapier. So this is something that if you use Zapier, you'll probably hear about more. But it's actually a place where you can learn about no code, and you can kind of see tutorials. So like create a download link for an ebook with member space, create coupon codes. You can kind of filter by the types of things that you're trying to do or the tools that you want to use. And basically these are like little recipes for no code. And it basically shows you like, okay, I'm using Webflow, and let's pick another one, Webflow and JetBoost. I'm actually not sure what that is, but how to set up an upvoting system with JetBoost and Webflow. So this would be a tutorial on how to do that. And so these guys were sending Zapier so much traffic and creating so much good content that Zapier was like, we're just gonna pick you guys up and make you part of our company. So that's pretty cool. I think time-wise, that'll do it for no code. Let's see. We got show notes. You guys are seeing everything back here. I think we probably will have a very meta stream in the future where right now I've got two screens and I forget which is on what screen because usually you guys don't get to see that. But just around how we do the stream, it used to be like I would have to like get ready for the stream a whole hour ahead of time because there were so many things to set up, and now it's gotten down to like probably 10 minutes to get all ready, and we're streaming to both YouTube and Twitch. And I guess in the no code theme there, it's all using tools. Like we're actually using a tool called Restream. That's this guy up here. That's how we stream to both Twitch and YouTube. And then you can see how delayed it is from here to from where I'm at to the internet and back into Restream. So that is no code. Credit cards. It's definitely harder to have transitions when you're by yourself. So normally we do overrated, underrated, right, on these things. And I would say credit cards, underrated. Credit card debt, very overrated. This is something that I've been very public about. If you want to check it out, we're just going to keep doing plugs for stuff here. Let's see. We'll go back to screen share here. But how you spend your days. So I actually have a podcast that has not been updated in about a year now. But it is about 30 something episodes of getting out of debt. It's something I'm still working towards. And I think the big thing here is that the pandemic, I think, made a lot of people really think about their finances and whether or not they had a social net, a safety net, as far as, what kind of debt do they have? What kind of savings do they have? What kind of runway do they have? If you're a restaurant, you're really starting to think about that. If you're a freelancer, even, like I know a lot of freelancers were kind of dried up in March, April, just because people didn't know what was happening. And now it seems like most freelancers that I know are very, very gainfully employed. If that's something that, that you're working on, if you aren't as gainfully employed, definitely come chat with us. And there's people out there looking for freelancers. So, it's something that we've always been focused on at the collective, is helping connect freelancers, and especially new freelancers where maybe you don't know where to find that first client or how much to charge, things like that. So the thing with this show is that I think, as a podcast, it's very difficult to talk about. Talking about the money wasn't the difficult part. It's that the horizon for getting out of debt usually takes a really long time. And so coming up with things to talk about on a weekly, I think I was doing at some point weekly, then every other week, and then eventually like monthly. And then, as most content goes, you start to pod fade a little bit. But we had, interviews with members around freelance finance. Probably one of my favorite episodes, though, was this one with Lindsay, where, she started to learn how to code, and she paid off a bunch of student loans. And for me, the big thing here is that I learned a lot about credit cards the wrong way about 10 years ago. And so I've been slowly paying for that price and getting out of debt, which, has really been helpful to kind of take the time to slow down, look at that. And I think the intention of this episode with Rachel was actually going to be to talk about both sides of that, right? Credit card, if you carry a balance, that means you're going to be paying interest in most cases, but then there is a lot of incentives that companies try to create for you to have that credit card in the first place. And that would be like credit card points, cash rewards, those kinds of things. And they can be good if you use them wisely. And some cards look good on paper, but then in reality, they don't look so good. And I would definitely check out things like NerdWallet and Credit Karma and things like that to kind of look at reviews on those cards, as well as, there's different rates for, I think, things like the points guy. Not all points are worth the same amount of money. So you might be like, cool, I'm getting all these points for every dollar I spend. But then when you go to redeem those points for flights or things like that, they may not go as far as you think. So, yeah. Elisa, hello. It's been a while. I see, let's see, that's a big issue I see for folks who are unemployed or had gig work, having a support system to help them pivot. Yeah, definitely. I don't think everyone always tells you like, oh, you should have a safety net. You should always have something saved up. And that's not a credit card, right? Because you want to have flexibility of using a credit card in an emergency, but then you want to hopefully have a way to get out of that debt once you put it on that card, whether that's paying off the balance before it becomes due, or if you like, okay, I know I have to take this, I need to fix my car to drive to work to make money, then it might make sense to carry that balance for a month or two. But for me, I can't wait till all my credit cards are at zero, and I plan, knock on wood, to ideally never carry a balance for things like travel and trips and things like that, and just having that available. Mostly because I know how much money I, quote unquote, throw away just paying interest and payments every month. So pretty excited to get that gone. But if you can use it well, I would definitely look at NerdWallet and some of those sites and just look at what are the best kinds of cards for you. If you have a business, what are the best business cards? What are the best personal cards? If you don't want to play the credit card game, that's completely fine too. Credit scores are, I think I saw today someone was sharing that like a credit score is not a trophy. It's not meant to be something that you get and you never want it to change. Like if you refinance debt, your score is going to drop temporarily. Which is why you don't usually want to do hard checks on, like if you're going to get a car loan or a mortgage, you wouldn't want to do that too close to refinancing other debt because your numbers are going to drop. Usually, though, once you start making regular payments on that, you don't miss any payments, then you'll actually have the ability to see that score just bounce right back to where it was. So definitely pay attention to the credit score, but it does feel like a game when you look at some of these tools like Mint and Credit Karma, and they, like right now for me, they're like, you need more kinds of debt for us to increase your score. And it's like, that doesn't seem like the right way to play this game, because I don't want more debt. But in their case, they want to know that you have credit cards, a mortgage, and some sort of loan, because then they see you as like this diversified loan debtor, I guess, instead of just someone who has credit cards or just has a car loan. So, Jonathan, I have a few credit cards that I'm not using, but I don't know if I should just close them. Yeah, typically they say not to close them because it will hit your credit. I think that's one I would definitely read up on at NerdWallet or Mint or one of those sites, because there is a point where if you never use the card and it's been a certain amount of time, they will close it for you. So, maybe putting like, a subscription on each one and just paying that off automatically, that will help you, because if you get rid of those cards, your total credit utilization rate will go down, because the total amount of credit that you have will go down. So keeping them open doesn't hurt you as long as you're able to keep track of them. I know a lot of people just want to get rid of them so they don't have to think about them. But if you go in and do like auto pay, maybe put Netflix on it, auto pay $8 or whatever. Netflix probably $15. I don't even remember how much that costs anymore. But do that so that it auto pays and you just know it always happens. And then that way you still have that, because one of the big weights for credit scoring is your utilization rate, which is how much of a balance you have over the total amount of credit that you have. So that's why a lot of people often recommend trying to get your limits increased so that you can increase the denominator of that rate. And if you close a card, you're going to I guess you're going to shrink both the numerator and the denominator. Well, I guess only the denominator if you're not carrying a balance. So I would keep them open, Jonathan. But again, I don't think that anyone should be taking credit card advice from me. I figured that we would just kind of talk about the cautionary tales there. I get excited about, obviously I'm not going to close my cards, but I'm excited to see them way lower than they were. And being able to then start to use that money to build up, more of a safety net to do potentially investing, retirement, stuff like that. And those are all things that I kind of talk about in the show. If you're curious about like how I got into debt, how much I was spending on coffee and food and all that stuff too, which was dumb. So I definitely invite everyone to take some time to just kind of even do like a money date with yourself, and just kind of take a look at go look at all your cards, go look at all your statements, see what you're spending and where. Some people have things that you just didn't know you were paying for. I have a gym that obviously gyms have been closed, but they also don't let you cancel unless you physically go in. So that's something that I've been trying to do, just haven't gotten around to it. But credit cards, again, I think underrated as a tool, overrated if you're in debt. Definitely don't follow in my footsteps there. So that's credit cards. Condiments, I'm going to pull up. We had a bunch here that I'll share, but if you guys want to share your own, we had some fun ones. Some people said that, if something needs condiments, we're just going to go straight into food here, but that if something needs condiments, it wasn't prepared well or seasoned well, which my counter to that is that some food is purely a vehicle for condiments. So I think it's okay. Obviously hot sauce. I'm a big fan of chili crunch oil. So I think like Momofuku has a new one out. Yes, here we go. We'll put this in these are the important show notes that everyone comes here for. But if you haven't tried this, I mean, you see this in a lot of restaurants for sure. But being able, like Momofuku is a good example. They're in like Las Vegas, New York, LA. With their restaurants being mostly closed, they kind of pivoted to taking a lot of their recipes and putting them out into the world through, online stores and stuff. So, yeah, I don't know what other condiments do we got out there as your guys' favorites. Elisa, Jonathan. Truffles seem to be very popular. Truffle ketchup, truffle fries. We've got mustard from Jonathan. Another Jonathan has entered the chat. Underrated. Yeah, someone said Dijon mustard, spicy as you can make it. So some Germans in the audience potentially. What else? I mean, hot sauce wise, I think we need to have a throwdown for best hot sauce, but also depends on what kind of food you're eating, so it can be hard. Trader Joe's taco sauce from Elisa. Horseradish from Jonathan. aioli, fancy mayonnaise, basically. Sriracha aioli. Yeah, I'd have to say like the best all-around hot sauce for me is Cholula, but if you're gonna eat Asian food, then it's sriracha and so forth. But chili oil, chili crunch oil. Nice. Yeah, we all. I don't think I can handle the heat either. At least I try. Cholula is like obviously not even hot, or it's more like hot sauce candy. Awesome. Well, I think we held it down on our own this week. If there's anything that you think would make the show better, I'd love to hear it. We've been just kind of using this as a chance for Rachel and I to catch up each week and talk about fun things. But if there's something that would be that you'd want to see, that you'd want to tune into every week, let us know. We're always trying to have some fun with this and getting people chatting. I think this one had the most people chatting, which is awesome. So I've always wondered what that was called. Only see it in an unlabeled container restaurant. Yeah. So like chili oil in general, but I think the chili crunch oil, it's like full. There's a lot of different salts and stuff in there, which is pretty awesome. So, and I'm just a big. Well, just like Atomic Habits is the other Reno Collective drinking game around me, but David Chang, big fan. So, big fan of food in general. But yeah, if you guys want to see the show evolve into any format, we're just playing around with it. It's crazy to look back, like when I post on Instagram, you can see all the tiles of all of our weekly shows, and it's weird to just be like kind of promoting the show instead of the co-working space. But we're doing a bunch of things in the space, and again, working with people who are trying to like pivot around what their business is. So we're gonna start trying to share some of those stories, especially people who kind of pivoted and survived. Their businesses survived through COVID, and what do they have to do to make that happen. We'll make this a little bit more into not businessy, but get it into a little bit more of that kind of stuff. And like I said, I actually do think sharing kind of how the stream works and all of that would be fun too. I know Mike Henderson's been doing a lot of professional streams. He's been getting hired by people who need to like go on to network television and things, and so he's been picking up some fun tricks of the trade too, so we can have some fun having a very meta conversation there. But that's gonna do it for this week. I just had my second vaccine, and so far no effects, but I'm just gonna go take it easy now. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.